Come on! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am George Massey and this is a reaction video to Star Wars: Force Awakens.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.
So here I am with this Obi-Wan Kenobi style beard. There was a lot of anticipation. Everyone said it's amazing. The reviewers said it's amazing. It's got a 95% success rate on RottenTomatoes.com, so people obviously love it.
I've really only loved two of them, A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Well, now it's three. The Force Awakens.
It is absolutely the film which the fans deserve.
You need to see this movie. You need to see this movie.
The great victory of it is that it made me feel for the first time like a 12-year-old watching a Star Wars movie.
I've seen the movie and it kicks ass.
This was awesome!
And J.J. Abrams, he's a very entertaining film director. So I was pretty excited. Now, what's good about The Force Awakens? The movie looks terrific. The designs are great. It's very authentic. It's very Star Wars. But overall, despite the hype and the mad fandom that seems to be taking over and permeating this Christmas, it's not very good. I know I'm going against the tide right now, and a lot of people disagree with me and will berate me, and Star Wars fans might take out their lightsabers and try and cut me down for saying this isn't a very good film.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
But here's why Star Wars: The Force Awakens is basically a disappointment. When it began, I loved it. It was amazing. The opening was great. I was totally into it. Initially, the only thing that bothered me in the beginning is I thought the dialogue isn't that good. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, the dialogue isn't great, it's a bit cheesy, it's a bit kind of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is great in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but not so great in Star Wars. But I thought it doesn't matter. I'm on a ride, I'm on a journey, I'm having a great time in a galaxy far, far away. This is all good. And then, oh boy, there were certain niggling points, standout moments that made me go, huh? One of them is Poe escapes with Finn, and Finn is a stormtrooper. At the beginning of the film, Finn is streaked in blood. A stormtrooper's bloody hand has wiped against his stormtrooper mask and left a print of blood upon it. And this is obviously very emotional and distressful for Finn, and it stands out, and the whole scene revolves around this moment. The kind of staring death in the face, witnessing the demise of a friend, and being a part of war, and Abrams shoots the first scene very warlike. It almost is reminiscent of Saving Private Ryan, where the boats hit the beach and they come running out. This is almost like that, except rather than, you know, ships on the ocean, these are ships descending from the sky. And they land on this planet and they run out and, you know, blow things to hell, and this one stormtrooper doesn't really want to be involved in it, and that's Finn. But the thing is he's a soldier. He says he's conditioned, raised in this environment, okay? And yet, as soon as he escapes with Poe, right, flying away, he's cheering, he's whooping, he's hollering, he's going, whoa, yeah, yeah, like a fan, right? Like those crazy fan reaction videos, the fans who are like, oh my god, the Millennium Falcon, oh my god, a lightsaber, oh my god, Chewie, oh my, you know, those kinds of fans on the internet.
Oh, Chewie! Oh shit, it's Luke talking! Oh!
Millennium Falcon!
Whoa! Oh!
Yes! Yes! I want more! Is there more?
And that's what Finn is doing. He's going, oh my god, whoa, yeah, whoa! And I was sort of thinking, number one, no stormtrooper would act like that. Like, he's a fucking soldier. You know, his job is to blow shit up and to shoot people. He's done it his whole life. You can't blow something up and then take the time to celebrate in between. So who the hell wrote that shit? And number two, right, we just witnessed this guy emotionally distressed at the result of one of his friends dying, one stormtrooper colleague dead, and his reaction is total somber depression, sweating, taking off his mask when he's not supposed to, right? And what does he do as soon as he escapes? He's fucking blowing up his own friends. Like, he's blowing up, he's killing his own people. And he's going, whoa, yeah, yeah, did you see that? Did you see that? And it's like, yeah, I saw it. It doesn't make any sense. Who wrote it? Why is this guy whooping and hollering like a Star Wars fanboy?
Oh shit! Holy shit! Did you see that?
It's totally bloody ridiculous. And at that moment, I started thinking, oh god, there are script problems here. This shouldn't have made it into the final draft of the script. But, you know, let it go, let it go. It's a Christmas movie. It's all just in good fun. Don't take it too seriously. But that little seed of doubt has been placed now. And I'm thinking, oh God, you know, just let it go, let it go, let it go. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So I carry on watching. And then it gets better and it gets worse, alright? Script problems continue. I'm not going to go into all of them. Han gets introduced. Han Solo, Chewbacca. This is great. This is an audience pleaser. This is the whole audience applauding. Woo, yeah! Our good old grey-haired friend is back. But how do they introduce him? You got Finn and Rey running around on the Millennium Falcon, panicking because they think that stormtroopers are coming aboard, alright? And they have the idea, hey, gas, we can smoke them out. And then Rey says, hey, won't the stormtroopers be able to breathe because of their masks? And Finn says, no, 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 their masks are only to prevent smoke, so they can breathe through smoke. What? What? Who the hell wrote that? It's just completely ridiculous. You're telling me that these people have discovered light speed, they can build Death Stars bigger than planets, but they haven't got fucking gas masks yet? The stormtroopers are running around with all that gear on their faces, predominantly to protect them from smoke. Now obviously, the only reason it's in the script is because the writers went, hey, wait a minute, surely the stormtroopers will be able to breathe through the gas because of their masks, so the scene doesn't work. So they just wrote in, no, 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 they can only breathe smoke. And the other thing is, it's stupid to have it in the movie because 3 seconds later, Han runs in instead. So there's no need to have that bit of dialogue. That bit of dialogue has just made the stormtrooper masks seem completely bloody stupid. And then I'm just going to skip because I don't want to go through all the stuff I didn't like about it. One thing that wasn't good is all of the places they visit just kind of look like holiday videos. They're just different parts of nice trees, nice lakes. What the fuck is that shit? What happened to like places that are a bit gritty, hot, ice, scary, cold, dangerous? When Luke meets Yoda, you know, it's like a bog, it's a swamp, it's dark, it's dank, it's full of vermin. It's not beautiful, it's not ideal, it's imaginative. You can see that it's the influence for movies like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal and all that kind of stuff that followed. It's imaginative. And this movie, they're just fucking going to holiday videos. Even at the end of the movie, like when Luke shows up, it just looks like a holiday video for Ireland or Scotland or some shit. Why can't it be imaginative? We're talking about a galaxy far, far away, other planets. This whole movie just looks like Earth. The visual side in that regard kind of sucked. Now I'm going to cut this short and go directly to the major fault with the movie, which is as soon as Finn and Rey fight against Kylo Ren for the end, the climax of the movie, they pick up Luke's lightsaber, right? They pick it up and they both fight against him. And this is the moment where it's like, what? 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 Okay, Luke Skywalker, hero of the previous trilogy, trains for 2 movies before he picks up that lightsaber and goes into battle with the arch nemesis, the big badass that is Vader, right? And you know what happens? He loses. He fucking loses, and he loses badly. And that's one of the reasons why The Empire Strikes Back stood out, why it was such a surprise, why it was such a tremendous piece of work, because it kind of existed in this region of truth. It wasn't Hollywood, the good guy always wins. It was fiction, it was fantasy, but it had this kind of core of, listen kid, you might be nice, you might be good, but the good guy doesn't always win. Even though your agent of darkness is a bad guy, he's worked harder than you, he's trained harder than you, and you are going to lose this battle. At the end of The Empire Strikes Back, Luke has no chance of winning. He trained a whole movie with Obi-Wan. He trains a whole movie with Yoda, right? And then he goes up against Darth, and you know he's going to lose. Vader is fighting against him, and all he's doing is toying with him.
Obi-Wan has taught you well. You have controlled your fear. Now, release your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me.
Just another thing, in the beginning of The Force Awakens, when Poe says some bullshit to Kylo Ren, like, he's already being a dick to this guy who clearly has so much power with the Force that he's got a whole army following him, that he stops bullets, right, as they fly towards him, he just freezes them. I mean, that ain't a guy you want to take the piss out of. In The Empire Strikes Back, the one time Luke tries to take the piss out of Vader, even in a subtle, slight way, when Luke says, "You'll find I'm full of surprises," what happens? Vader goes zoom, and he knocks the lightsaber out of Luke's hand. He knocks Luke down the stairs. Don't take the piss out of me, kid. You might have trained, but I'm still better. I'm still gonna win.
You'll find I'm full of surprises.
And despite 2 whole movies of training, what's the result? He gets his hand cut off. He loses the lightsaber, he loses the fight, and we know that if Vader wanted him dead, he would have been dead. But in this movie, these 2 kids go up in battle against the arch nemesis, Kylo Ren, and they do goddamn well. How the hell can Finn, a stormtrooper, go into battle with this guy? I mean, Jesus Christ, in the original movie, the very first one, Obi-Wan says to Luke, you know, wear this visor, put this over your head, don't depend on your senses, feel the Force. This is folklore, but it's also based in some kind of sentient truth, the kind of ancient wisdom that martial artists and spiritual masters talk about, the power that exists within, the interconnectivity of everything that Yoda talks about.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Alright, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
All of the depth, all of the elements that took this from a children's fantasy into something on a higher plane, that which permeated our culture, that which we gravitated towards, is surely in part not just the lightsabers, not just the fight, not just the flashy scenes and the special effects. It was the realization that this film was in some way connected to a universal truth, the mystique, the mystery of life itself, and also the reality that to conquer bad, you have to first conquer the bad within you. The Yoda also says the dark side is not outside of you, it is within you, and you must first conquer that, or you will become susceptible to that. That's what makes that film so powerful. It's an ancient truth that evil is within us. John Lennon talked about it, Russell Brand says it.
Solzhenitsyn was a Russian dissident and author. He goes, the line between good and evil does not come between nations, religions, races or creeds, but runs through every human heart.
We're all violent inside, we're all Hitler inside, we're all Christ inside. And it's just to try and work on the good bit of it.
Evil is within us and you have to overcome it. And that was the point. And in this movie, none of that, no training, no spiritual training, no mental training. These 2 people just run up to this guy and they have a fight. And it's like cowboys and Indians, and it's bloody stupid. It's entertaining, but it takes liberties with the Star Wars franchise. It's not authentic. And what the film kind of boiled down to is it became just like toys, like a trick, where people are just like, oh, Millennium Falcon, oh, Luke, oh, this, and it's just like cashing in off of all of these things that have been established previously. Like, it's been taken away from you for so long, you had to sit through these 3 crappy movies. So here we're going to drip feed you things that you used to love to make you think that you're watching something great. But in reality, what you're watching is all flash. It's sort of, I don't mean to overdo it too much, but it's sort of like if you have a piece of shit, right, and you cover it with hundreds and thousands so it looks really beautiful, it's all colourful and nice, and you think, ah, look at that. But as soon as you actually start to pick away at it, you're like, oh, this is just shit. And that's what The Force Awakens kind of is. It looks flashy, it looks beautiful, there are your favourite characters, there are your favourite ships and whatever, but it's like, don't get bought in by it, because Star Wars really has kind of it sounds nerdy to say this, but it's kind of gone to the dark side, because in the original movies there are these things about money, right? In the first movie, Han is all about money. He's like, hey, listen to me, princess, I only listen to one guy, me, right? And when he comes back, Leia says to him, ha ha ha,
hey, I knew that was more to you than money.
And this is an underlying point. The writers wanted to make something brilliant, something beautiful, something truthful, something powerful, as opposed to just making money. If you want some proof, Lee Brackett, who wrote the first draft of The Empire Strikes Back, she died before she got to see it finished, but she did finish the script, okay? Lee Brackett was a great writer. She wrote hundreds of short stories, she wrote science fiction novels, she wrote films like The Big Sleep, she wrote Rio Bravo, one of Quentin Tarantino's favourite films. She even wrote a novel with Ray Bradbury, esteemed as the greatest potential fantasy writer, one of the greatest science fiction writers. He was the inspiration for Stephen King. Steven Spielberg said that he wanted to tell stories because of reading Ray Bradbury as a child.
I turned down $200,000 worth of screenplays because I knew if I took the money, it would destroy me. I wouldn't do a good job. I'd get a bad reputation. And so what's the use of money?
So Lee Brackett, who wrote The Empire Strikes Back, even wrote with Bradbury. Bradbury was her best man at her wedding. They were very, very close. Okay, and she knew how to write, she knew characters, she knew fantasy, she created the vibe of The Empire Strikes Back, she created characters like Yoda. He had a different name in her script, but his vibe, his style, the fact that she says he's a frog-like creature in her script, who seems silly and childlike, like a toy almost, but he's going to talk some real wisdom. Nowadays, they never have that. Even in this movie, in The Force Awakens, there's like this supposedly quite wise old woman who doesn't spout any wisdom at all, and she looks like a Star Wars creature, but she just speaks in a woman's voice. She just talks like a human. And it's just like, why can't they have any imagination? Why can't fun creatures sound like aliens? Why can't they sound kind of like cartoon characters? Chewbacca sounds funny. You know, R2-D2 has his own unique personality without even saying any words. Yoda obviously has that very famous voice, voiced by Frank Oz. But nowadays, it's just like, they all sound like people. How boring, right? Make her sound like a Star Wars character. It's just lazy. The other thing that pissed me off is they blow up the Death Star. Like, Jesus Christ. I mean, talk about fan service. When The Return of the Jedi came out, fans were complaining that the script writing was so unimaginative that they just built another Death Star like the first movie. They're like, again? They did it again. Even though the ending of Return of the Jedi is amazing, they still complain. But now that it's like 30 some years later, they're like, well, fuck it, just do it again. We can't think of anything else. And Han's like, don't worry, we'll blow it up. And they do, you know. It's simple as that. Even though it's quadruple the size of the previous two, it's just like, don't worry, we'll just fly in and we'll blow it up. It'll be like a joke. Fan service. And it's like, this movie isn't supposed to be a joke. It's not supposed to be fan service. It's a movie. It's supposed to have a point. It's supposed to have a heart. It's supposed to have character development. It doesn't have character development. It's got a bloody stormtrooper who gets high off the fact that he's blowing up his own bloody friends. It's just dumb. This girl who somehow mysteriously has the Force, but there's no development at all. You know, in the development of the Force, she just has it. And she even has like a mental battle with Kylo Ren, right? Where he's trying to get information out of her and she doesn't give it, and then the big badass goes to the bigger badass, Snoke, another one-syllable crap name, right? Leader of the dark side at this point, and he's like, I couldn't get the information out of her. It's like, well, try something else, you idiot. Like, pick up a child, put it in front of her and put a lightsaber to its head, right? Then she'll give you the information. You don't just have to try and get into a mental struggle. You can do whatever you want.
If you want to know something he won't tell you, cut off one of his fingers, the little one. Then tell him his thumb's next. After that, I'll tell you if he wears ladies' underwear.
Now, the next thing that the script completely is ridiculous, just so dumb, is the whole of the original trilogy is about conquering the dark side, bringing balance to the Force, and they overcome the darkness, they succeed, right? And in this movie, the good guys are called the Resistance. That doesn't make any sense. How can they be the Resistance? The dark side, having been overcome, they should be the Resistance. They should be smaller than the good, because the good has overcome the bad. So how can the good be the Resistance? This makes the original trilogy meaningless. Just completely pointless. It makes no sense. They shouldn't be the Resistance. It's like, what happened? As if all of that was for nothing. And the dark side is just carrying on as normal. And who's kind of leading the armies? Oh, God. Trained by Luke Skywalker, who had the power to overcome, to conquer, to defeat the entire dark side. Train this kid, right? And yet some random stormtrooper with a lightsaber can actually have a fight and do pretty well against him. It's ridiculous. You know, this guy is family of Darth Vader. He's family of Luke Skywalker. He's family of Leia. You know the famous lines, the Force is strong in my family, my father has it, my sister has it, I have it, whatever. And guess what? So does this kid. But who gives a shit, right? Because two random kids pick up a lightsaber and have a fight with him and win. Oh, it's so dumb. Who wrote this? Now also, Han's son. Like, they must have been terrible parents, right? Just terrible parents, because the dark side isn't even supposed to exist in the way that it did before. I mean, how bad must they have been to have raised a kid who ends up like this? And I don't think we're going to get an explanation why. I don't want to see another prequel trilogy to explain him. I don't care enough about him. Okay, he was great before he took off his mask. Not his fault, not the actor's fault, but the script is just stupid. I don't want to go on and on and on, but the last thing, the absolute last thing that pissed me off, and there are plenty more. I almost could have let everything else go if they hadn't made this terrible mistake as far as I'm concerned. They killed Han, right? They killed Han, he dropped down that shaft, everything blew up afterwards, so we can presume that he is gone. And you know what, I didn't mind. Okay, he's an old man in reality, he's not going to be in the next 150 Star Wars films that they'll probably make, but what does that mean? It means that J.J. Abrams had this movie and he went, okay, this is the first authentic Star Wars we've had since Return of the Jedi, and I've got Harrison Ford and I've got Mark Hamill, I've got Han Solo and Luke Skywalker both signed up for the same movie, and I can do whatever I want with them. Which means we just received the last movie we're ever going to watch with Han Solo and Luke Skywalker on screen, and they never appear together. How the hell that can make it to the last draft is shocking. Absolutely shocking. Think of what we could have had if Luke had appeared halfway through the movie, right? If they'd have been in a fight and the lightsaber had started trembling like it did at the end of the movie, and then Luke had grabbed it instead of the girl, right, and he'd appeared, we could have had Luke and Han running through that Death Star. We could have had the fun of the originals. We could have had Luke cutting things up, shooting things away, using the Force like he never had before, with Han behind him shooting stuff with his blaster. Hey, you're doing alright, kid. You know, the kind of fun, the fun that made Star Wars so great, that the interactivity between those characters. think about it for a second, okay? All the children's cartoons of the 80s were inspired by the dynamic of Star Wars characters. Ninja Turtles, right? 4 cool characters in crazy adventures.
The wall's Don't just stand there, try and brace it with something!
You get the feeling somebody has it in for us? So how do we get out?
There is no way out.
Thundercats, a bunch of fun characters in a strange world, all getting into adventures. All that stuff comes from Star Wars. That's why it was so big and popular, because you got the young cool hero, you got the badass guy, Han Solo, you got the princess, you got the Wookiee, whatever, getting into crazy circumstances, walls closing in on them and stuff, and they had those characters in this movie. You had Leia, you had Han, you had Luke, but Jesus Christ, didn't somebody on the staff writers think to themselves, this is the last time Luke and Han can ever appear together, ever, and Luke isn't in it until the last shot of the film. What a terrible idea. If Han's gonna die, oh my god, have Luke in it, have them run around together. Here's a better idea. Here's a much better way to kill Han if you gotta kill him. They're running around the Death Star, they're getting into adventures, blowing shit up. I'll go this way, kid, you go that way. You know, make some wisecracks, make fun of him. Bring back the magic of Star Wars. Could have been so good. And then, whilst Han and Chewie run into some room to shut down the shields so that the X-Wings can fly down the trenches to try and blow up the planet or whatever, right? You could have... Another thing, before I carry on, a style used successfully in previous movies is the cutaways. So you have this story where Lando Calrissian is flying into the Death Star, and then you cut back to a different planet where Han and Luke are shutting down the shields, that kind of thing. In Empire, you've got Luke's story happening with Yoda, and then you cut back to Han and Leia in an asteroid, or Han and Leia in Cloud City with Calrissian. So you always have these 2 stories happening at once, like a sitcom. They go like this, and then in the end they connect. Well, this movie didn't have that. It was just one constant. It didn't have a subplot. It lacked it. But either way, you could have gone, right, Han, you go here, you shut down the shields, whilst Luke is like, I'm going to take care of this shit. And then at the end of the goddamn movie, you could have had that scene on the bridge with Kylo Ren, but it could have been Luke, okay, Luke going up against his pupil, mirroring the previous movies as Lucas liked to do. But anyway, Luke goes up against Kylo Ren, the teacher versus the student, just like in the first movie, where Vader fights Obi-Wan.
When I left you, I was but a learner. Now I am the master.
That's what Kylo Ren could have said to Luke. And you could have been like, well, the last time this happened, okay, Obi-Wan got killed, right? When Obi-Wan went up against Vader, Obi-Wan the teacher dies. So this time Luke is going up against Kylo Ren. Maybe Luke is gonna die. That would have been tense. Luke could have been fighting Kylo Ren, and it could have gotten to a point where Luke is about to kill Kylo Ren. He's about to finish him off, and then Han calls out, don't! Because Han is watching his own son getting beaten. Han is watching Luke potentially about to kill his own son. And Luke could hesitate, thinking, you know, I can't kill this kid. He was my student. I'm not an advocate of the dark side. I don't want to be susceptible to it. And he could back away, and he could say to Han, look, even I don't know if I can win this fight. And Han could say, but I'm his father. Instead, in this movie, Leia says, you're his father. You can turn him around. So basically, Leia is the one responsible for Han's death. Instead, Luke says, I don't know if I can beat him. But Han says, but I'm his father. And then Han goes over, and then we get the scene on the bridge, and then, to everybody's shock, Han gets killed trying to turn his son around. It would have been so much better. You could have had Han and Luke in the same goddamn movie, which we're never, ever, ever going to get. They completely botched it. And then Luke could have done that, no! Almost like in the first movie where he witnesses Obi-Wan die, and then he feels it on his conscience. He feels as if he is in part responsible for the death of Han, and then things could have started to, you know, fall apart, and they'd have to run, and they'd have the fight in the snow and all that stuff, and you wouldn't have had any of that nonsense with non-Jedis. Luke could have been protecting Finn. He could have been been protecting Rey. It would have made sense. They wouldn't have messed it up. They wouldn't have messed up the Force. But instead they did. The script is just plain bad. And when people say, well, you know, it was written by the guy who wrote Empire and Jedi, no, that's not fair, because the person who did the arc, the layout, the first draft of Empire, Lee Brackett, who was a genuine writer, she died, okay? That guy finished it off. He didn't write it from scratch. And as for Abrams, well, he's not a great writer, is he? To end this, it's a well-directed bad script. And as far as I'm concerned, The Force Awakens is the first example of Star Wars going to the dark side, because it didn't care at all about the true heart, the true meaning, the true depth, the true mythology of Star Wars. It felt like it just existed to be very flashy and to make money. And that's exactly what it did. Here are your toys, kids. Here's the stuff you remember from childhood. Here it is on the big screen. Just don't think. Don't think about what you're watching, because as soon as you start to think, you will realise that none of this makes sense, it's completely flawed, and we really don't care about A, the mythology, or B, the true potential of this movie. It's well directed, it's a lot of fun, it's very exciting. I would totally continue to watch J.J. Abrams movies. I just wish to God Hollywood hired script writers. Hire script writers. Lee Brackett, she was a writer. Get somebody who knows how to write. For crying out loud, make sure it looks good on the page before you invest $200 million to put it on the screen. Every problem I mentioned could have been fixed on paper first. It could have taken 2-3 days, a week to iron out the problems in that script. Just wasted. So lousy. And I didn't like the fact that the Star Wars title was sort of modernized, digitized, changed a little bit. Oh, and lastly, the music. The music wasn't good. It was John Williams, but it wasn't good. It's got the most famous soundtrack in probably movie history. Just put it in. Just put it in. But they don't. You know why? Because to write a new soundtrack means you can sell a new soundtrack. You can make more money. And that's all this film was really about, making money. And it worked. It worked. Star Wars, The Bank Awakens. This is just my views, just my thoughts, just what I felt watching the movie. I don't mean to offend anybody who had a great time. Anyway, bye bye everybody. May the Force be with you. Always.